Hey friends, my name is Sean McCormick and I'm a former public school special education teacher turned executive function coach. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my tried and true process for running family team meetings. I'll teach you what they are, how to run them, why they're so important, and by the end of the video, I'll also give you my handout which you can use to guide you through a family team meeting. This video is for parents, educators, and administrators who are looking for a high-impact strategy to support student executive function skill development. A family team meeting has the power to massively improve executive function skills. If you don't know what executive function skills are, check out this report by Dr. Adele Diamond, in which she found that executive function skills improve quality of life, school readiness, school success, job success, marital harmony, and more. If you've been feeling stuck with a student who isn't buying into their education program, maybe they're not attending as expected, maybe they're not turning in a lot of assignments, and normal strategies aren't working, even if you give them one-to-one support when they come to school, or they're working with a counselor, still they're struggling to manage school, the family team meeting can be an incredibly effective approach. So what is a family team meeting? It's a structured gathering by a group of stakeholders in a student's life who come together to collaborate on problem solving, decision making, and planning to support the student. But most importantly, the student has to be there and they are the center of the process. We want to elevate their voice throughout it. Now, the focus of this meeting can change based on the student's needs, but the primary goal is to engage the student in their own education and allow them to be supported by the team of stakeholders, which may include their parents, counselors, teachers, administrators, and mental health professionals. Why are family team meetings so important? There's a famous book in education called Visible Learning by John Hattie. And in this book, he looked at over 800 meta-analyses, which aggregated data on over 250 million students worldwide. And through these studies, he tried to answer the question, what has the greatest impact on student achievement? Hattie found 256 factors that influence student achievement. And near the very top of the list was a thing called collective teacher efficacy. So I'm looking at it on a separate screen over here, and I want you to notice that there's one here that says teacher estimates of achievement, and this has a 0.4. So this 0.4, according to Hattie's research, represents about 1 year of student achievement. One of the interesting things in Hattie's research was he found that there was also things which had a negative impact on student achievement. So if you scroll down on this report, you actually get into this zone where there's things that have a negative impact. And at the very bottom is ADHD, or executive dysfunction. So this is another reason why learning these critical executive function skills are so important. So let's jump back to the top and look at collective teacher efficacy and how it can impact student achievement. So as you can see from this factor of teacher estimates of achievement, that 0.4 is multiplied by 4 here to get 1.62. So what this tells us is this factor, teacher estimates of achievement, can have about 4 years of impact if used properly by educators. So you can actually go to this other global research database on Hattie's research, and you can scroll over and get things that have the biggest effect size. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to go down to collective teacher efficacy. I'm going to click on that, and you can actually read about what it is. So here it tells us collective teacher efficacy is the shared belief by a group of teachers in a particular educational environment that they have the skills to positively impact student outcomes. Now, why is this so important? Well, it tells us that when a group of people working together believe in a student and the shared outcome that they are working towards, that has a huge impact on their learning. So let's jump back over to the picture of the research, and we can see here that collective teacher efficacy has a very powerful impact on student achievement. So now we know what a family team meeting is, why it's so important. Let's explore how to run one. So first off, you may be wondering who should join for a family team meeting. If you're an executive function coach working privately with a family, I suggest you run a family team meeting in lieu of a regular meeting with a student once a month with just the parents, the student, and yourself. The reason for this is that many families aren't ready to pay for having administrators, mental health professionals, and others attend the meeting. And if you're running it, you want to keep it cost effective for the family. Now, if you're a school administrator or special education teacher implementing this process, I recommend that you have key personnel in the student's life attend the meeting. So this may include their counselor, this may include a paraeducator working closely with them, yourself, a school administrator, their parents, and anyone else who's playing a key role in supporting them attend and be successful in school. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty details. How do you actually run a family team meeting? So a family team meeting has 3 parts. You identify what's going well, what needs to change, and who does what by when. Let's zone in on the steps for each of those parts. Now remember, this meeting should be facilitated by someone who has experience with it, such as the executive function coach or case manager. And in the first section, the what's going well, that person asks everybody to share something good that's going on in the student's life. Now, this may be something as small as they've turned in an assignment, they're attending school that day or that week. Whatever it is, you just want to make sure everybody shares out something positive, and also that it's not a subtle jab at how they're not doing well enough. So in the what's going well section, the facilitator, which is usually the special education teacher or case manager, asks everybody sitting around the table or in the Zoom room, what's going well, please share something out. Now, typically, I have everybody but the student start to share so they can hear some positive things. So this might be, oh, they've turned in some missing assignments, or they're here attending school today. You want to make sure everybody is sharing at least something small. Now, if someone's struggling to share something, a couple tips for people who are sharing: try to speak from the heart, try to be genuinely positive and appreciative that this student is putting in effort, even if it's just as small as them joining for this meeting. This sets a positive tone and acknowledges efforts and progress, but it also does something very incredible, which is lower the affective filter. So if you're not familiar with what the affective filter is, I've pulled up a slide here. So the affective filter is when you as an educator, parent, are trying to give input to the student, they put up a wall or an affective filter and cannot access new information. So your job as an educator or parent is to lower their anxiety. Now, what does anxiety do? Well, it makes them feel different, lazy, overwhelmed, and that puts up that barrier. So your job is to try to lower this. And the things that lower the affective filter are creating a safe, comfortable environment. Lastly, you want to ask the student what's going well after they've heard everybody else share out something positive. This is going to help them feel confident and engaged in the process after hearing it modeled by the adults around them. So the next big step in this process is what needs to change. And this is where you, as the facilitator, want to carefully lead a discussion on what needs to change while also getting small buy-in from the student and parents and team each step of the way. Now, as you go around the table, what I suggest you do is in this section, you actually start with the student. So it might look something like this. Hey, Edward, when we meet 1 month from now, what would look different in your life so that you would feel like this process is having a positive impact? So Edward might say, well, I need to get a big history project, or I want to attend school more. And so you want to zone in on what that is. And then you want to turn to the other team members and say, do you guys agree with this goal? Is there something else you think is a primary focus? And so this is where you're kind of facilitating and finding a balance between other people's goals and desires and what the student has expressed they're willing to work on. Now, it's really important that if a parent, educator, or someone else on the team starts to say, oh, I want this and this and this, and the student feels overwhelmed, you're noticing that they're kind of retracting from the meeting, you bring it back and you may say something like, hey, I'm noticing that you're saying this is really important, but what I'm hearing from Edward is that he feels like he can really focus on this. Can we find a middle ground? And so here, you're trying to just massage the process so that everybody feels like they can buy into the same thing and support each other in that goal. And that's that collective efficacy piece. Now, the final step in this process is once you've all agreed on what the big picture goal between now and next month's meeting is the who does what by when step. So this is step 3, who does what by when. And this is where you as the facilitator is going to work with each person to identify what role they think they can play in this process to support the student. So remember, I always say it's not about the coach, it's about the team approach. What you want to do here is say, okay, to the student, Edward, what are you going to do between now and next month to work on this goal? Then you might turn to the teacher. Teacher, how can you support him? Parents, what can you do? So to give an example, maybe Edward has a big history project due. Perhaps one of the steps in it is that Edward has to get a handheld recorder so he can interview his grandparents about their experience. So this might be where the mom or dad could say, hey, we'll buy that handheld recorder. Maybe the dad says, I'm going to sit with Edward 4 out of 5 nights in school week so that he can get help on this project from me. Maybe the teacher says, hey, I'm going to make sure to ask Edward to come to office hours with me after school each day. So all these different parts where everyone's putting their best foot forward and helping out create that collective efficacy piece when everyone is focused on that one team goal. Now, as a facilitator, what I want you to do is fill out the family team meeting action plan, which I'm going to share in the description of this video. So if I scroll down, you want to make sure you put in all this information. And when you get to the who does what by when section, enter shared or agreed upon goal before next meeting is. Write it in a way that's smart, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time bound. And then put in any action steps that are going to be completed by different team members and what they're going to do. And turn to each of those people before the end of the meeting and say, hey, what I'm hearing you say is you're going to do this. Can you confirm? So after the meeting, you're going to send this to everybody so that they all have a copy of it and no one can say, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. So what you're doing here is you're facilitating that collective efficacy. So what challenges might come up throughout the family team meeting process? Sometimes you might notice a parent getting frustrated during the meeting and starting to vent rather than sticking with the process. If this occurs, let everybody know. If anyone's getting frustrated at any time, feel free to step out and rejoin once you've had a time to calm down. Other executive function coaches that have asked me, what if parents are making it difficult or aren't scheduling with me even though I've suggested we run a family team meeting? So this does happen sometimes where a coach will start working with a family and then they'll say, I just want you to work with my kid. I don't want to be involved in the process. Now, what I recommend you do here is make sure at the beginning of your coaching process, before someone pays and commits to services, make sure you get their buy-in to this type of process. So say, hey, part of my process is that once a month, we're going to have a family team meeting where we discuss what's going well, what needs to change, and who does what by when. Can you commit to this? Make it a clear, required part of your process so that you don't get to 6 weeks or 8 weeks in and the student's struggling, but you need the parents' buy-in and support in the process and you can't get them to engage. So if you want to learn more about this process, I've also linked a few things in the article that's in the description. So I have this article, The 4 Keys to a Family Team Meeting. You can check out that research on the 256 influences and effect sizes related to student achievement. And then if you also Google family team meeting, there is some content on California's Department of Social Services about the child and family team. I find it interesting that even though this is such a powerful process and so impactful on student outcomes, that this webpage is not fully developed. This is why I created this video for you, because I want you to have the skills you need to run a successful family team meeting. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you have any questions or comments, drop them below. Please like, subscribe, and click that little bell to get notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.